After my divorce, I moved in with my parents just until I got back on my feet. On my first day back, my mom looked at me and said, "Don't think this is forever. We're not a shelter." My room had been turned into a home gym. I slept on a cot in the garage. One night, I heard them laughing over dinner, talking about me like I was already gone. A week later, I left without saying goodbye. 3 years passed. Then they called. And this time, they were the ones begging for a place to stay. 3 years ago, I came back home after my marriage ended. I didn't have much, just a couple of suitcases, a box of papers, and about $320 to my name. My ex-wife kept the apartment and most of the furniture. She even kept our dog. I got my clothes, a few books, and a stack of divorce papers. I drove straight to my parents' house in Lake Elsinore. I hadn't been there much in years. We weren't super close, but I always figured they'd be there if things ever really went south. And they did. I was 38 years old, jobless, broke, and completely alone. I pulled into their driveway around 2 in the afternoon. It was hot as hell. My car didn't have AC, so I was sweaty, exhausted, and just empty. My mom opened the door. She stood there in her yoga pants and tank top, arms crossed, staring at me like I was a problem she hadn't expected. Her first words were, "Don't think this is forever. We're not a shelter." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Come inside, you look tired." Not even a simple, "Hi." Just that. I stood there holding my bags, unsure if I should even go in. "I just need a place for a few weeks," I said. "Just until I get back on my feet." She turned and walked back inside without another word. That was my welcome. When I stepped in, the air smelled like lemon cleaner and protein powder. I looked around, nothing had changed. Same old tan carpet, same fake plant in the corner. I walked to my old room, hoping maybe it was still intact. I opened the door. Gone. Everything. My bed, my desk, my dresser, all gone. In their place, a full-on home gym. Free weights, treadmill, yoga mats, an entire wall mirror. My whole childhood was erased. Where am I supposed to sleep? I asked. My dad didn't even look up from his laptop. Garage, he said. We've got a cot in there. The garage was barely more than a storage room. No insulation, no AC. I found the cot in the corner next to bins of Christmas stuff and boxes labeled for donation. There was a folded blanket on top and a single pillow that smelled like dust. I dropped my bags and just sat on the cot, staring at the wall. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept thinking, how did I end up like this? The next few days were quiet. I stayed out of their way, applied to jobs, ate whatever was in the pantry. They didn't ask how things were going. They didn't talk to me at all unless they needed something moved or cleaned. Then, one night, I heard them at dinner. I hadn't been invited. I was in the garage with the door halfway open, trying to get some air. Their voices drifted through the window. My mom laughed. "He's still here. How long does it take to get back on your feet?" My dad joined in. "He's just using us. 38 and still mooching." My chest felt tight. I wanted to scream. But I stayed quiet. Just listened. "God, it's pathetic," my mom said. "I gave him a week, max. I'm not running a halfway house." That was the last straw. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront them. I just waited until they went to bed, packed up my stuff, and drove off around 1 a.m. I left the blanket folded on the cot. I crashed in a Walmart parking lot that night in Temecula. The next morning, I walked into a warehouse down the road and asked if they were hiring. They were. I started the next day. The job sucked. But it was a paycheck. I found a studio apartment in Bakersfield. Tiny, roach problem, no stove, but it was mine. I worked double shifts, saved every cent, and slowly built my life again. I learned how to live cheap. I ate rice and beans, watched free movies online, never went out. And I didn't speak to my parents again. Not on birthdays. Not on holidays. Nothing. They made their choice. Then, about 3 years later, in the middle of July, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, another call. Then a text. Please call us. It's urgent. Mom and Dad. My heart pounded. Not out of worry, out of anger. I hadn't heard from them once. And now it was urgent. I waited an hour before I called back. My mom picked up. She sounded small. Weak. We lost the house, she said. Your father, he's been sick. We used all our savings on medical bills. And the gym, it never took off. We're living out of our car. We don't have anyone else. I just listened. No emotion. No sympathy. We just need a place to stay for a little while, she whispered. Please. I let the silence hang in the air. Then I said, you can come here. But only for a little while. She cried. I hung up. The next night, they showed up. Their car looked worse than I remembered. Rust on the bumper, a crack across the windshield. My dad looked thinner. My mom looked older. They both smelled like fast food and sweat. I didn't invite them in. I walked out with a folded blanket and 2 bottles of water. I handed them over. What is this? My mom asked. You're staying in the garage, I said. They looked confused. Then horrified. There's a cot in there. Space heater too. My dad's face went red. You're not serious. I nodded toward the garage. I was your son, and you treated me like a squatter. Now you're the ones asking for help. You're lucky I'm even letting you stay. My mom started crying. And I walked back inside and closed the door. They stayed in the garage. For the first few days, it was quiet. I'd hear them shuffling around in the morning, hear the space heater click on. I didn't offer food. I didn't ask how they were doing. I didn't make small talk. And they didn't knock. The power outlet I let them use was old, and the heater would trip the breaker every few hours. They never asked me to fix it. I guess they knew better. On day 4, my dad knocked on the back door. I opened it a crack. We're hungry, he said, looking down at his shoes. There's a food bank on Jefferson, I said. Open Tuesdays and Fridays. His face twitched. He didn't say thanks. He just nodded and walked away. I watched them leave, climb into their car, and drive off. They didn't come back until after dark. Later that night, I walked past the garage window. I could see them inside, sitting on the cot, eating canned beans right out of the can. My mom's face looked hollow. My dad's hands shook. It should have made me feel something. But it didn't. Or maybe it did, just not the kind of something I used to feel for them. The next day, I got a call at work. It was my neighbor, Mr. Reiner. Hey, not trying to pry, but, there's an older couple in your garage. Yeah, I said. Family. He paused. Well, they've been asking folks for money on the street. Down by the gas station. I clenched my jaw. When I got home that evening, I waited for them to come back. I sat on the porch with a folding chair and a beer, staring at the driveway. They pulled in around 9. My mom looked surprised to see me sitting there. You been panhandling? I asked flatly. No, she said quickly, too quickly. My dad said nothing. Don't lie to me. She looked away. I gave you space. Shelter. You do not bring shame to my door. You remember how you treated me. Don't push this. My dad finally spoke. We're desperate. Not my problem, I said. You don't like it, you can leave. They didn't leave. 2 weeks in, my boss offered me a promotion. Supervisor at the warehouse. Higher pay, longer hours. I took it. I started leaving at 5 a.m., getting home around 8 p.m. I was too tired to think. But one night, I got home early. Something felt off. The garage door was unlocked. I stepped inside. It was empty. The cot was tipped over. Boxes had been moved. One of my tool chests was open, and lighter. I checked the drawer where I kept a backup envelope of cash, emergency fund. Gone. Almost $1,200. I stormed back into the house and yanked open the spare room. I never used it, but I had checked it that morning. Clean. Empty. Now. My mom was in there. Lying on the floor with a blanket. My dad was in the living room. Watching my TV. They had moved themselves in. I just stood there, jaw tight, heart racing. You robbed me, I said. No, my mom snapped. We took what we needed. You weren't going to help us. You think we haven't suffered enough? I didn't speak. Just stared at her. You made your point, she said. But you don't get to treat your parents like this. We raised you. I nodded slowly. Yeah. You raised me. Into someone you didn't want around. She stood up. We're not leaving. Then I'll make you. I didn't call the cops right away. I wanted to. My fists were clenched so tight my nails dug into my skin. My mom's face was defiant, like she was daring me to do something. My dad didn't even flinch. He just kept watching the damn TV like he lived here. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to them move around my house. Cupboards opened. The microwave beeped. They were in my kitchen, using my food, sitting on my furniture. And they didn't ask. The next morning, I checked my bank account. More money missing. I had left my wallet in the kitchen drawer like always. Dumb move. My debit card had been used, $1.84 at a grocery store a mile away. I checked the receipt online. Frozen dinners. Soda. Cigarettes. I stared at the screen and whispered, they're robbing me. I drove to work, but I couldn't focus. I kept seeing my mom's smug face and my dad's blank stare. I knew what I had to do. So that night, I came home early. I had a camera in my hands. A cheap security system I picked up from Walmart on the way home. I spent the next 2 hours installing it in every room, kitchen, hallway, garage. I put a hidden one in the living room, tucked behind a fake plant. They watched me do it. My mom asked, "What's that for?" "To see who's stealing from me," I said. She rolled her eyes. "You think we want your crap?" I didn't answer. I just kept drilling. For the next week, I didn't say a word to them. Just went to work, came home, ate in my room. But I watched the footage every night. And I caught everything. My mom digging through my drawers. My dad going through my mail. One day, they took a package off my porch, headphones I'd ordered, and tried to return it at Best Buy for cash. Denied. But they tried. That was it. I called my lawyer the next day. A friend from my warehouse days had gone to paralegal school. She gave me advice and helped me draw up a formal eviction notice. California law gave them 30 days. But once that clock started ticking, I had power again. I handed it to them the next night. My mom ripped it in half in front of me. "You wouldn't be here without us." "No," I said, "I'd be better without you." "You heartless little bastard," she snapped. I didn't flinch. 30 days. Then I called the sheriff. They tried to fight it. My dad yelled. My mom cried. But I recorded everything. Every outburst. Every threat. Then it got worse. One morning, I went to the garage to grab a box of old tools, and found it trashed. Broken glass. Paint dumped on the floor. Holes punched in the drywall. They were trying to punish me. The next day, I filed a police report. Officer came by, took notes, watched the footage. He said calmly, "Technically they're tenants now. You're doing it the right way. Just stay safe." But it didn't feel safe anymore. I started locking my bedroom door at night. Then, day 21, something changed. They were gone. No note. No bags. Nothing. I checked every room. Empty. I checked the garage. Still a mess, but they were gone. I checked the cameras. Around 3 a.m., I saw them sneaking out. Carrying trash bags full of clothes and boxes. They loaded the car quietly and drove off. No goodbye. No thanks. Nothing. But when I stepped outside that morning, I found something taped to my windshield. A single sheet of paper. "You'll regret this." I kept the note. Not because I believed it. I kept it because it reminded me who they really were. That even after stealing from me, lying, squatting in my house, they still thought I was the villain. I didn't regret kicking them out. Not even for a second. What I did regret was not changing my locks fast enough. 3 days later, I came home and my front door was cracked open. My stomach dropped. I knew that door had been locked when I left for work. I stepped inside slow, heart pounding. Drawers were open. My laptop was gone. My TV was ripped off the wall. Bedroom tossed. Clothes scattered. They had come back. They had a spare key. I forgot I'd given one to my mom 3 years ago when I first moved in. They waited until I was gone, and they cleaned me out. I called the cops again. The same officer came out. He looked over the mess inside. "You got insurance?" "Yeah," I said. "Good. But I'll be honest, unless you have footage of them coming in, it's your word against theirs." But I did have footage. I showed him the front porch cam. My dad unlocking the door. My mom hauling out a TV in broad daylight. Her smiling. Like it was a damn game. He nodded. "That'll do." They issued a warrant within 2 days. Turns out, they hadn't gotten far. They were staying in a cheap extended stay motel in Hemet. Cops showed up, found most of my stuff still in the room. Not everything, but the big stuff. TV, laptop, even my winter coat. They both got arrested. My mom cried as they cuffed her in the parking lot. My dad yelled something about family being sacred. I just stood there and watched. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. They were both charged with felony burglary and theft. First offense? Maybe. But they had enough on video that the DA was willing to push for real consequences. I pressed charges. My friends said I was being cold. Even my coworker Beth asked, "You really gonna send your own parents to jail?" And I told her, they stopped being my parents when they stole from me, laughed at my pain, and treated me like garbage in my lowest moment. This is just me finally setting the damn boundary. The trial took months. They pled not guilty, of course. Tried to claim the house was theirs, and that I owed them. But my lawyer shredded them. Played all the videos. Showed the receipts. Played the garage audio. The judge wasn't moved by their crocodile tears. Final sentence. 6 months in county. 3 years probation. Restitution ordered, $2,400. Not a life sentence. But enough to sting. They never apologized. They never contacted me again. I changed my number. Sold that house a year later, bought a better place with a bigger garage. Just for the symbolism. I got promoted twice. Built a life for myself, piece by piece. And every time someone says, you only get one set of parents, I tell them, yeah. And some people only get one spine. I finally found mine. The last thing I did. I took that windshield note, you'll regret this, framed it, and hung it in my hallway. I pass it every morning on my way out the door. Still haven't regretted a thing.